You're listening to the world's #1 football podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Ben Hansen, Matt Hartman, and Ryan Matthews.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pigskin Project YouTube. I am Matt Hartman, as you heard in the intro. Today, we're going to be bringing to you all AFC teams, their season-long questions that I personally brought to the table when we did all our season previews. If you want to see any of our season previews, you can go out and see that. That is one of the playlists. I'll leave it in a link down below. And also, every Wednesday, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, PM, of course. We are streaming live, so any content you see here is streamed live over there. So go check us out. And, of course, if you like what you see, subscribe, and there's more content on the way. So hope you enjoy. Thank you. Also, looking over, keep in mind, some of these questions happened in May and June, way before training camp got settled in. So just keep that in mind if you're watching through and you're like, oh, this got answered. Like the Jets, I talked about Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner extensions like a month and a half before they actually happened. So just keep that in mind. But enjoy the video. The overall question I have for this team is, does the defense sustain the impact they had a year ago with being a top 3 unit? You think 2023 Browns. The Browns, the Flacco year when they went into Houston, ironically enough, these two teams share a lot of parallels except the quarterback. The Browns 2023, they were the best defense, EPA per play. They make the playoffs and they get trounced by Houston. They move on to 24th and they were 18th last year. So they dropped to a little lower than middle of the pack. Same thing happened to the Broncos. 1 game sample size, but Josh Allen, the MVP, had a 65% success rate as a drop back passer in their playoff game. For reference, the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs had a 50% success rate on the dot. They had an also .591 EPA per play. So that means every 10 plays, the Bills were essentially adding a touchdown against the Broncos and the #1 defense last year. Another, stat reference, 2018 Kansas City, .237 in 2018.
I think that's what it all comes down to when it comes to predicting the schedule, and we'll get into it. With how they were, they were 10-7, and they did do a lot of great things, but predicting a unit, like you said, the defense, widely regarded as the best defense in the NFL this past year, predicting them to have that same success year in and year out, whether that's on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, for any team, predicting a team to be that good every single year is where it becomes really tricky. And that's really where it's going to come down to it. If that defense is just as good as it was, then maybe they'll have another 10-win season. But, yeah, I mean,
we'll jump question with the Raiders. What the hell is the timeline that's being created right now? What am I supposed to believe about the Raiders? They hire the oldest coach in football, the oldest offensive coordinator. I looked it up. It's Chip Kelly. They traded a top 100 pick for Geno Smith, who turns 34 in October. They drafted a running back at 6, and they let all the prime, like the free agents entering their prime or the guys in their prime, someone like Spillane who's 30 but still playing at a high level, they let all those guys walk and just signed a bunch of stopgap veterans for 1-year deals. The only one, like Jeremy Chin, is the richest non-free agent or outside the building free agent they signed, 2 years, $16 million. And you can't come to me and say they didn't have money. They were second behind only the Patriots. Yeah. So what am I supposed to believe that your timeline is with this team? Because this roster is not good enough to compete. And you made moves early enough when they traded for Geno. I was like, okay, they're going to be aggressive in free agency. And they were the exact opposite. It's a very weird offseason. It's a very weird first offseason that I have seen in a while. But yeah, let's get into schedule predictions because I'm interested to see where you guys view the Raiders as opposed to where I possibly see. Season outlook question for them, and I think it's pretty simple. Can left tackle finally be figured out for this team? Kansas City has finally reached the who cares status of the regular season. Who cares? If this team wins 10 games or they win 14 games, they're trying to win a Super Bowl, and they're 3-2 in Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes, and both losses. I should start with both wins were kind of down to the wire finishes where he was the best player on the field. Both of their losses were outmatched blowouts due to fundamental disadvantage along the offensive line. They trade Tooney away, who is their most consistent piece. They are likely going to pay a younger player in Trey Smith who doesn't play left tackle or right tackle, a valuable position. And now they're depending on a backup in Jalen Moore to step up at left tackle. They're expecting a rookie, even if I like Simmons long term. He has knee issues. Can he start right away? It's very interesting and fascinating how they've tackled it. Are they going to figure it out finally? Who knows? Because if they do, for the league, but it might not matter because they have Patrick Mahomes. So
I think that really is that big question again, is what you're doing at left tackle. Does Josh Simmons come along faster than what you think he's going to come along this offseason with all the injuries he had, and is he going to be an impact starter right away? And if he is, well then again, like you said, you better watch out. And then it just comes down to do you have that confidence in Jalen Moore or not? He's only been a backup pretty much throughout this point in his career. And do you really trust him to block the blind side of the best quarterback in the league? So it'll be interesting.
It's an outlook question for me. Can the young influx of high-end draft capital talent take the Chargers and Justin Herbert specifically to places where they are bona fide top 5 to 7 offense? Second year of Joe Ortiz drafting, and they both look similar. They took Joe Alt, they took Ladd McConkey, and then this year, in the first 2 rounds, they took Marion Hampton, and they took Trey Harris. All of those guys specifically helping Justin Herbert, who is a massive, massive contract and a massive cap hit. There's just no way around that. So that is, ironically enough, complete opposite to what Green Bay does, where Green Bay kind of takes shots at the back end of the draft, and, we're going to get cheap talent, cheap hits, because we want the quarterback to elevate these lower level draft capital guys, where the Chargers are going and spending premium draft capital to do so. Again, it's a marginal thing, but this was the stat I mentioned to you guys before. The highest skill position cap hit for the Chargers in 2025, excluding Justin Herbert, it's not a Marion Hampton, it's not Ladd McConkey,
Is it Mike?
It's Will Dissly, a blocking tight end. So that's like where this team is at and how young they are. And if they get hits with, like I said, I was lower on a Marion Hampton, but he could be a hit, being a very good complement to Najee Harris. And you bring in Trey Harris, who, ironically enough, Trey Harris and Mike Williams are the same size, but they're like very different kind of, like, I don't want to say skill sets, but Trey Harris flies, where Mike Williams is only catching contested catches. So I'm just interested in this team because they won 11 games last year. So in theory, they can only go up, but who knows? We'll see. My season outlook question. I don't want to do this with every team, but we have to do it for this team. I don't want to just talk about the quarterback, because we could talk about the quarterback for every team. How is the quarterback going to perform? Well, this team, it makes a lot of sense because the 2025 Patriots are building their team with high-value free agents and volume draft picks. This is a comparative draft strategy, or a comparative offseason strategy, to the 2024 Titans. A year 2 quarterback, a new coach, we spent a lot of money, we took a lot of, draft picks, and where'd it get you? The number 1 pick. Because the quarterback didn't, take a level up. And I know Will Levis is drafted in the 2nd round, Drake May's drafted in the top 3. But it's basically, can we band-aid this roster? And in a vacuum, it makes sense. In a vacuum, it's good process. In a vacuum, this guy's going to, the other side of the grass is going to be green, but sometimes it doesn't take that leap, especially in the conference that they're in the AFC with, Burrow and Herbert and Mahomes and Allen and Lamar, and I could keep on going, and it's still a lackluster offensive skill group. You're expecting Kyle Williams to play a really big role. You're expecting a 31-year-old coming off an ACL tear to play a really big role. And their O-line group is still, suspect at best, I believe. And, oh, hey, Josh McDaniels back. The guy that has only had real success in this league when coaching Tom Brady. It's just a recipe of intrigue. And I think this season is not about if they reach their win total, which, by the way, on DraftKings is 8.5. All right? They expect this team to be a above 500 team. And I think that's not the way to walk into this season. I think if I'm a Patriots fan, I want to be able to puff my chest out next season and say, we have our guy going into 2026. And whether that looks like we have 5 wins or we have 7 wins, or hell, we surprise everybody and we're winning double-digit games. If you're able to walk into 2026 knowing Drake May is your quarterback for the future, that's good enough for me. And that's what I hope they achieve.
Yeah, it's tough. It's difficult. I mean, Matt summed it up. For me, I think the big question is, and it's a question we had, through the course of the entire offseason, not specifically about the Patriots, is Will Campbell. Can you get...
He's just going to play left tackle, yeah.
Yeah, can you get high-level tackle play from Will Campbell? I was in the camp, and I have always been in the camp, that you absolutely can. A half inch isn't going to mean that much of a difference. I mean, I know it is a game of inches, but I do think he has the stuff. He does have the technique to be a very, very good tackle at the league. And I think if you can, as you said, kind of figure out that tackle situation where you don't have the 81st ranked tackle protecting your quarterback, you're going to see that step forward from Drake May. As you said, he had 10 interceptions or something this season. If he can not go above that and he can kind of take that step forward with hopefully better weapons, you're happy. You're leaving the season happy. It was kind of the same conversation that we had with you, Ryan, off the air. As long as you see that quarterback take that step forward, you're happy with how the season turned out, despite what the records say in the win-loss.
The season outlook question, and I cheated. I did 3 questions because there's not one thing I can pin down with a team that is clearly in a rebuild, but they're in a fascinating rebuild. The number one thing is Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner are going to get extensions, and they're going to get extensions for a lot of money. Derek Stingley in the same draft class as Sauce with the similar amount of accolades got $30 million at the beginning of this. So I imagine Sauce's people is asking for $30 million, and then you get into Garrett Wilson's conversation. DK Metcalf just got $33 million for 4 years. I imagine Garrett Wilson also wants that kind of money. So what do those contracts look like? Do they get them done before training camp? Do they try and even get them done before training camp? Do they just let them play? Who knows? But those were 2 guys that are superstars and should likely get extensions coming very, very soon. And then I talked about Justin Fields because you have to. He's a very chaotic player who has transcendent plays and moments, but he holds back offenses with his own struggles, playing on time, playing in rhythm. How does that affect the overall, functionality of the Jets offense with a first-time play caller in Tanner Eggstrand, who is coming from Detroit, who was so buttoned up and so coordinated and so on time. If you watch Goff, so many 3-step drops, 3 steps, ball out, kind of things like that. And that is where Fields is. He's a problem child. Like, ask Ryan about it. He is not an on-time player, and I don't expect in year 5 it just all of a sudden figures out because he's playing for the Jets. Does Fields' chaos kind of override the offensive flow? Does it hinder the yak ability that Wilson and Brees can give you? Who knows? But again, I said it, like, he's not a quarterback that stops you from getting your next one. That's kind of the path I think the Jets are on, is that they're going to use Fields to get to their next quarterback, and we'll figure it out from there. And then the last thing was, like, just schedule related. Their first 6 games, that's a gauntlet, man. Going to Pittsburgh, playoff team. home game against Pittsburgh, in a revenge game against Rodgers. Buffalo at home, playoff team. Going to Tampa, playoff team. Going to Miami on Monday Night Football, not a playoff team, but they lost there last year, and Miami the year prior was a playoff team, and they were in the mix last year. Same thing with Dallas. They lost Dak early. And then you got to go to London to face a playoff team in Denver who has a gauntlet of a defense. Could they be 0-6 in that? Unlikely. It's hard to lose 6 football games in the NFL, but if this team's 1-4, could this really derail their team? Could this really derail a season that you're trying to figure out, is Justin Fields a good enough player? You're trying to figure this out. Can we pay Garrett Wilson long term? Are we going to sell on Breece Hall? That's a real thing with Steam, is that could they move Breece Hall at the deadline? Who knows? But let's get into the prediction. I'm rambling too much.
I just want to say really quick, it's interesting that, the NFL, regardless of, how we feel about this gauntlet, I hate the schedule for them. This is a really rough schedule. We're going to go over it here soon, but the NFL ranks us, just based off of opponent win percentage, but this is the 25th ranked, strength of schedule in the league. So, they've got it easier than majority of the league right now. And to be honest with you, based off of where I think this team is and who they're playing, I want my boy Justin Fields to succeed. I know I joked about it, but this is a rough start for him, man. That's my tidbit.
Yeah, well, and that's what we had talked about when you had kind of mentioned what your season outlook questions was. For me, it's just a matter of what can you get from this offense? Can we see a step forward? Because you have invested in this offensive line with first round picks. Yep. Does Garrett Wilson finally take that step? A good wide receiver. He's not an elite wide receiver. We've been hoping for him to take that step. And again, is all that news with Breece Hall, and is he going to get traded? Is he not? And again, for me, like you said, it's just a matter of, quarterback aside, can this offense kind of congeal as one unit and start to at least show signs that it's going to work? Or are you going to have to pivot and try to make a move? And it's interesting.
The other thing that's weird with this team is that you think of teams like we're going to talk about New England and what they did. New England had no good players. Garrett Wilson's like you said, he's on the cusp of being a superstar receiver. Mm-hmm. Sauce has proven he is a superstar corner at times. Quinnen Williams is a superstar interior line. There are so many good players along this team, but they went 5-12. Their year before with Rodgers got derailed because of that injury, and who knows what they would have been if he was there prior. It's a weird team. You don't usually see a team fire their entire staff and inherit, a new coaching staff of usually it looks like the Patriots, and you just don't have any players, and you need to figure this all out from ground zero. They're kind of in the middle here going, wait, I just got here and I have to decide if Garrett Wilson's worth $30 million or not? That's kind of where they're at. It's an awkward place to live. My season outlook question: how impactful does the defensive line and Bradley Chubb and Kenneth Grant, their rookie, and Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips have to be to negate what the secondary is? I'm going to share my screen really quick just so I can kind of present what their secondary is right now.
It's Storm Duck. He is a starting outside corner for them right now.
Yes. Their secondary right now, Storm Duck's an outside corner. Cater Coe, who's going to play the nickel. If you just X off Jalen Ramsey, you're immediately slotting in Jason Marshall Jr., who's a rookie out of Florida. They signed 2 safeties in the offseason I just mentioned for, $1 million or $3 million each. Both of these guys combined, Ashton Davis and Ifeatu Melifonwu, combined for less than 500 snaps last year. And they're going to start for both of them. Cam Smith is a swing and a miss, but he might have to play. Artie Burns was good in Pittsburgh for a minute. But that's kind of where we're at with this team. So it's just interesting to see if they trade Ramsey, it's going to, A, cost them money, and B, just limit their ceiling of what the secondary can be. So again, I ask, where are they going? What are we trying to do with the Dolphins? And they don't draft well. Maybe Dante Trader Jr., Jason Marshall Jr., someone gets on the field and plays at a competent level that you're saying, okay, we found a guy. We found a guy in the secondary on a cheap contract, but it's hard to really, you're out of options. You're limiting your optionality down the stretch, and secondary is the one. I mentioned secondary so many in these questions because secondary is such a volatile position, A, in play, and B, in injuries. You get secondary injuries up the womb in this league. So if all of a sudden you trade Jalen Ramsey and Storm Duck, your outside corner is now going to miss 4 weeks, you just got to throw someone at the problem and hope it figures out. I don't know how this team is going to survive the season. But let me stop rambling and let's get into the prediction.
I am actually so glad though that that was your season outlook question, because that was exactly where my head went when I look at that roster. And Kenny Grant, I mean, he's a rookie. What can you expect? But for me, again, I really do think so much of that success that you're going to have on the defense relies on those three specific edge players in Jalen Phillips, Josh Robinson, and Bradley Chubb to stay healthy, which Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, given freak injuries, haven't really shown the ability to be able to do such. Mm-hmm. But if they stay healthy, how much of an impact can they have? Because if they're healthy, that might be arguably the best rotation of three edge rushers that you have in the entire league.
Yeah.
It's just, it's difficult. I don't know. I'll tell you this, though. James Bradbury is still a free agent. Maybe they can go out and sign that guy.
My outlook question, pretty simple. The youth movement along the offensive line, they have drafted 5 different players. They are a 4-2-5 team. Base nickel is 4 pass rushers, 2 linebackers, 5 DBs. And they have drafted 5 linemen to rush the passer. They can help you long term, but how do they affect 2025? The Bills, no stranger to the playoffs, the big moments, the division titles, and also no stranger to losing to Patrick Mahomes. And so they have it figured out on offense, revolving around the son, which his name is Josh Allen. Defensively, it continues to be a challenge. They paid the price on Von Miller, swing and a miss. But Greg Rousseau came in and passed him for the better. And they extended him at a good number. $20 million annually for an ascending pass rusher is a great contract to me. And you bring in now 2025, 3 new rookies, I just mentioned, and then 2 sophomores, Dwayne Carter out of Duke and Javon Sullivan out of Troy. So you kind of have these guys cast with roles in case, like I mentioned Larry Ogunjobi, I mentioned Joey Bosa, I mentioned Michael Hoyt. What happens when those guys go down? Someone has to play now. So it's going to fall on these guys to actually contribute time and minutes, snaps per se, and they want to win the Super Bowl. So, again, does this make Buffalo look smart right away? And all these guys are good. We have 2 guys we found in this draft who are really good. Or does it take some time? And you're relying in January on Larry Ogunjobi to actually play meaningful and play a lot for you. So that is where we're at with them. They're championship or bust. They're a hard team to really create a question around. They have the MVP of their league, the reigning MVP of the league. It's hard to create a question, but if they want to win a Super Bowl, they're following the Philadelphia Eagles model of depth in the defensive line room.
Well, speaking of following the Philadelphia Eagles model, I mean, my question, my season outlook question for them is, can they learn how to properly do the tush push? And then can they learn to not complain about it if it doesn't freaking work? Yeah. I'm sorry. I just had to take that jab.
It was a first down, man. It was a first down.
My season outlook question. This was my favorite one of any of these. How good is Cam Ward? This question doesn't matter if he sucks. If he's bad year 1, well, then you do what Ryan did, right? He's a rookie. Who cares? Give him time. But playing the what if he's good game gives more excitement, and I think it gives everybody else more excitement. The precedent the last 2 seasons is that rookie quarterbacks are like the wave now. Because let's take you back, 2022, Davis Mills was the 30th best quarterback. They bring in C.J. Stroud, and they take them to the playoffs. And then 2023, Sam Howell with the Commanders, 26th in EPA per play, 24th in success rate. Jaden Daniels was 6th in EPA per play this past season, 13th in success rate. They won 12 games. They went to the NFC title game. Like we mentioned with Will Levis, he was 32nd in both of those. Let's play the game. What if Cam Ward is 13th in both? That team's winning 11 games. So it's like, how much better do they get just from getting the bump from the worst quarterback in football to maybe average, maybe above average, maybe he's a superstar. Maybe he just creates explosives every time he walks on the field like Daniels did. Who knows? But the sky's the limit with a player like this. And so it's just that alone, going from the worst situation in football at quarterback to just sustainable, brings me enough excitement that we'll see where this team finishes for me.
I don't want to be now I feel like the bad guy. Now I feel like I'm the one pooping on the parade. I mean, coming off the back of that, I mean, let's pump the brakes. I think is kind of where I'm at with Cam Ward. I like Cam Ward. He's number 1 overall pick. He was number 1 overall pick for a reason. And yes, I get you're going from Will Levis to Cam. But man, is it going to be rough with this offense. And at the end of the day, he's a rookie. And I feel like more often than not, rookies struggle. You know, you do occasionally have the Daniels rookie season. But more often than not,
they band-aided the offensive line. They have Calvin Ridley. Like I said, if one of those shots hit in the round 4 guys, like,
you're making me feel like I'm a bad guy.
You're staring at something. You're not staring at nothing. That's my belief when I was researching this team.
Yeah.
And Cam Ward was asked about Traylon Burks today, dude. Remember when he ranked Traylon Burks in the top 5 on Fortnite? Come on.
Yeah, he was talking about, that quote was ridiculous. He was talking about how he thinks, I mean, he should say it, but talking about how he thinks that he's going to be one of the best weapons if he can stay healthy. Really, my big takeaway, though, from the Titans, when looking at the Titans' defense, and then we can, jump into the actual schedule prediction. Mm-hmm. I'm looking over the defense, and I think to myself, man, could they use a guy like Ernest Jones? That is what I think to myself. A guy like Ernest Jones could really help this defense. I don't like their linebacker core the way it is. And it's just a shame that they weren't able to keep him. Now, again, I understand why they didn't keep him, but he would have been fun to have in this defense, and it might have changed the way I looked a little bit because I do not like this defense outside of, Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah.
T-Sweat? Not T-Sweat?
I don't think that they were that bad. I don't know. I'm just saying.
We'll see. Yeah. Which is funny, too, Ryan, that this is where it's at, considering where we're at on this team this time last year. So
I don't know.
My season outlook question. Come on, guys. You know me so well. Can Trevor Lawrence get back to what he was in 2022, please? Lawrence is a very contentious talking point. Some have him in the outside of the top half. Some are like me, have him in the 12 to 14 range, sniffing that top 10 range. And I don't feel sorry about it. This guy in 2022 was top 10 in EPA per play, top 5 in success rate, and in Mahomes territory for sacks taken. Had under 30 sacks when he played in all 17 games. That's really insane numbers. And the last 2 seasons, of the 19 qualified quarterbacks with 1,000+ snaps, 16th in EPA per play and 15th in success rate. It's bad. It's been really bad the last 2 years. He's only been a downtick the last 2 seasons. But with a new youthful energy, new head coach Liam Cohen, Brian Thomas Jr.'s rookie season, Travis Hunter is likely going to play a pretty good chunk at wide receiver because they drafted him number 2 overall, and they rebuilt their interior offensive line. There is optimism for us Trevor believers. We will ride at dawn when the season starts up again. I'm excited to watch this guy play. I love watching
my
the
season
Texans.
outlook question is, how many times are we going to make excuses for this guy? Jesus Christ. Can we please just like figure this out? Like, I'm not saying you specifically. I'm just saying people in general. This guy is one of the most exhausting players in the league when it comes to quarterback. And, I feel like until maybe this
I feel like
is
he's
the
not talked
year.
about. I
He
feel like
shouldn't be.
I feel like he goes. Yeah, I'm
He
not
shouldn't
on the
be.
same side. I see a lot of Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky debating Jalen Hurts. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget. Orlovsky put Hurts at 1. He was like, regardless of what you think, Hurts is number 1.
Yeah,
But his opinion's irrational. I don't think that it means anything. So, like, if he talks about Trevor Lawrence, it's probably like bottom 5 quarterback in the league right now. It's all recency bias. Jalen Hurts just won a Super Bowl, big deal. For me, it's like, if we talk about, okay, like, the guy's got potential. Oh man, they just loaded up the offense for him. Christian Kirk, like, they just completely overpaid the receiver, like, blah blah blah, and like, oh, now they've got Calvin Ridley. This guy's gonna blow up, and then he throws for just barely over 4,000 yards. Like, that's cool, 4,000-yard passer. Congratulations, you already did more than any Bears quarterback.
come on,
this is
ironic, dude.
But like my thing,
Thank you.
like my thing is, regardless, like, what is the guy doing? Like, I don't know. Like, it's not great for me right now, man. I don't know. And one of the things that I'd like to do, hint, I'd like to do more film reviews personally, thinking about NFLs.com, NFL Plus subscription, figuring out if I can record that and put things out, because it's like, I need to put on paper why I don't like these quarterbacks for other people, because I feel like for you guys especially, we talk about this way more than just the podcast every week. Just a, PSA for people listening, like, I need to have more backing this stuff up and why I don't like Trevor Lawrence, and I want to put that out for you. So maybe that happens, but regardless, I don't like him.
Why
I
do
don't.
I hate this guy?
I mean, you guys will see. I'm going to be drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit more on Trevor Lawrence than usual. But I had this conversation, kind of exact same conversation with Matt, a little bit more extensively off of the podcast. It's like, at what point can Trevor Lawrence continue to play down to what we expect, and for us to be like, no, give him one more year, compared to, this is just what Trevor Lawrence is. Like, how many more years are we going to try to convince ourselves that he is better?
I can't get to that point because I saw what he was in 2022. And I saw what the highs are, and with how reactionary we are to quarterbacks. Like, Jaden Daniels is in any top 5 list you look right now. You know what I'm saying? Where was Lawrence after 2022? So it's
Yes.
what we saw recently is going to be how we judge our opinion for most of us. So, but us believers, us in the hive of Trevor Lawrence, our belief doesn't go away. Our belief only exfoliates. Is that the right word to throw in?
Do you know who had a great year? Do you know who had a great year and had a hive of believers and then just went downhill every single year? Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz was MVP runner-up.
Wow.
And it was never the same sense. So I get given.
So he's Carson Wentz.
I'm not saying that. We will get into it when we get here. But I'm just saying there are two sides to a coin. Dude. Given I'm leaning more towards you, Matt. Like, I want to say that I think we are
the correct side.
A better year, but let's.
Don't go to the darkness where Ryan is sitting in hate.
All right.
No, dude, I'm trying to give him.
Let's brace ourselves that it could be the same result. Is all I'm saying. But I do think it is going to be more like, well, you're here, more like you. So,
dude, the way that I'm making.
Why do you hate Trevor Lawrence?
You guys are speaking,
why do you hate him? Huh?
What he is like it's like Kyrie. It's like Kyrie in basketball. All right, they're gonna talk about him like, oh my God, how does he have this talent to put the ball wherever he wants it? But like, he's never gonna have the overwhelming counting stats to win an MVP. You get what I'm saying?
The biggest curse that Trevor Lawrence has is being drafted by the Jaguars. No, the biggest thing is
Liam Cohen's gonna
right now.
Duval.
That is the literal point that I was getting to. Is I'm trying to build a case to be like, well, maybe this is the year that he explodes, and Matt's like, hey, this is cool, and I'm like, the one wrench in the plan here, right, on why that might not happen. You know what Liam Cohen had that Jacksonville doesn't?
What?
2 great receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Brian Thomas Jr.
Brian Thomas Jr. Travis Hunter second overall.
Oh my God.
Jesus, stop yelling. Hold on a minute. Travis Hunter's playing both ways. Something that hardly ever has happened in the NFL before. We don't know how that's going to work. Hold on a minute.
Sorry.
Jesus Christ. But regardless, there's that, and then there's also a great run game. I mean, that's not something that is established very well in Jacksonville. It's still a question on whether or not ETN's going to be their guy or what's going on. Whereas in Tampa Bay, you could alleviate, Baker, given the fact that he threw for 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns last season. He also had a good run game to take the pressure off of him in short down moments.
We didn't know that going into the year. It's not like we talked about Bucky Irving.
Well, that's the thing.
We are now going.
I don't like that you brought up Chris Godwin, because Chris Godwin played in 7 games.
Yeah,
it's still a good tool to have for 7 games, regardless. Yeah. And Mike Evans is still a 1,000-yard receiver. He's still good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That might have been top 5 favorite podcast moment. By the way, just throwing that out.
I don't like. Regardless, I don't know. Sure, I don't know. Brian Thomas Jr. did some pretty good things, and I might have forgotten about him. That's totally okay to admit. But he's what, top 3 in receiving yards this year with somebody that's not named Trevor Lawrence. That's pretty good, But yeah, I'll give him his flowers. My bad. But where does Travis Hunter slot in here? I'm excited to see that. Maybe that's another season outlook question.
As a prospect, I slot him in with the neighbors, the that boy move different kind of category.
You know what I'm saying?
I think he's going to be. You don't trade up for a corner, too.
I think he was a better corner or better wide receiver than corner. So I agree with you, Matt.
I'm still, but I agree with your ETN is not Bucky Irving, and it's 1 season, and ETN's been around for a little bit, so
neither is Tank.
But I was gonna say Tank Bigsby is good in between the tackles. That's what I was gonna throw out there, but you kind of poo-pooed my point. Maybe Bashal Tootin takes a step. My season outlook question for them. Sometimes the questions are fun and I can flex my creative muscle. Sometimes it's the offensive line, man. And I'm not and my question is kind of deliberate. Can the offensive line get to a level that can take them to the Super Bowl? Because the quarterback is at times transcendent. Even if last year was a down year, I'm buying CJ Stroud to be better in year 3. They have a deep group of pass catchers. They added 2 more rookies who were really, really productive, just as Tank Dell was at Houston. They have an alpha top 10 guy in Nico Collins, and then a top 5 defense since DeMeco Ryans took the job 2 years ago. So everything is on par to at least make the Super Bowl. You look at how the trends go, they would be one of the teams due, but then they have this revolving door they call their offensive line. I'll give them this. They brought in 6 new players. Whether it was trade, whether it was free agency, whether it was the top 50 pick in Ariante Ursary, they made their moves. They made a ton of moves. They're going to go down swinging, and I give them that. But the antsy part is, are they going to actually get the 5 right? It's still a 5. I think Cam Robinson is a good left tackle, and he can be sturdy until Ariante Ursary's there. Blake Fisher was pretty good in limited time last year at right tackle. Titus Howard has 2 years left on his deal. Jarrett Patterson is young, and we'll see.
He's young.
He wasn't he still needs to beef up. He's a small center, so that is a big thing with him. And then left guard, I hate left guard here. Drew Scruggs, man, Drew Scruggs or Lincoln Tomlinson's going to be playing left guard for this team. I don't love that. But it's a year ago I drank the Kool-Aid with this team. I picked this team to win the Super Bowl, frankly. I was only buying uptick with this team. and they shot me in the face, but they still made it to the same exact spot that they did the year prior. Like, that's the thing, is they continue to be in this Final Four AFC dance with, only Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar. Like, that's a good group to continue to be in, and they should continue to be in that territory. It's just, can they get the offensive line kind of right in this, like, it's kind of a retooling offensive line year, and I'll see how they attack it next year, but they don't have a ton of money next year. So that's kind of thrown in there. They can maneuver money around, every team can, but on par right now, like, they only have $7 million in cap space right now. So we'll see where they go from here.
I'm with you with the offensive line. That's my biggest question.
Yeah.
Like you said, you couldn't have worded it any better for me. The one point that I want to make is after the divisional round, if you guys were listening back then, you'll know, like, I did not think this team should have lost against the Chiefs. There was not a single fiber in my body. After, I want to say, going into the fourth quarter, the Texans as a team were dominating every stat in terms of team stats, that they could have. They were winning in every single category and beating the brakes off of them in that. It was just such a slow snail game, you know what I mean? To snail race, to where it's like, look at what they did.
Chiefs football game? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that last year was probably the most frustrating year. You guys could probably vouch for me, but, like, putting it out there, like, the way that they played the Chargers in the first round. You guys remember that? Like, I think we talked about it, Matt. I think you might have had a future on them. The thing is like, dude, we all looked at that team and went, oh, okay, they're not messing around. Like, they're coming to steamroll people. And then they ran into that and utterly, I would say, collapsed against the Chiefs. They should have won that game. I will die on this hill. At the end of the day, they didn't. But it's worth noting going into this season because, yes, the offensive line has changed. But look at the defense. That's my big takeaway here, right? The first thing that you think of when you see all of the departures and what has gone in, and honestly, I was influenced by it a lot. So my opinion's allowed to change here. But, I mean, that defense is still intact, if not gotten better. You know what I mean? The one big thing that hurt them towards the end of the season and is still affecting them is Tank Dell's out. And obviously they lost Stephon Diggs, but, like, did they ever really have him?
They rebuilt.
You know what I mean?
They rebuilt those guys in the aggregate, getting Noel and getting Higgins.
Right. So, I mean, they have that, not to mention, I mean, like you said, they had Christian Kirk as well. I mean, that's a good fill-in while these guys develop. So, I mean, they still have pieces for CJ Stroud to, throw to. Will he have time? That's a good question.
Again, yeah, that's the thing. I think it's overlooked. Like, the difference between 1st and 11th is massive, but also the difference between 32nd and 22nd. If they can be, like, a fine below average group on the offensive line while they figure it out, what if they find the perfect 5? It's one of those things that these things have to happen. Like, someone, it's either going to go great, it's going to go horrible, and even if it goes horrible, I watched it and they won 10 games. So, like, if it goes horrible again, I still trust the defense, I still trust the quarterback, I still trust the coach. Those are the 3 core elements of winning a championship. So it's going to be interesting to see this team.
Right. Ben?
Yeah, I'll save my thoughts, I guess, for this team once I get through my schedule prediction, my final record, and everything. But I'll say this. Outside of the quarterback, I don't think there was another move in the NFL that impacted the way I had viewed a team as much as the Tunsil trade did.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Yep, I'm with you too, yeah.
He sucked. In comparison to his contract.
Yeah. I agree, but he has a long rap sheet of being one of the better tackles in all of football. So to give up on him that quickly, especially when you were going to struggle across that offensive line as much as you will, it was just very tough for me.
I think it's sell high. I think it's what good teams do.
I still think Lermy Tunsil
sell before he hits that 30 dip.
I think Lermy Tunsil has still a lot left in the tank, but that's We'll get into it.
Their season outlook question, it wouldn't be an episode if I didn't have two. Is this defense like low-key top 10? Like, I kind of liked it. The Colts' biggest problem last year was their secondary, 23rd in drop back EPA per play. So what did they do? They brought in a longtime defensive backs coach in DC and Lou Anarumo and signed one of the richest corners and safeties on the free agency market. Their pass rush will continue to get a nice facelift with JTT. Hopefully Laiatu Latu, who Chris Ballard was jumping up at joy when they got him at 15 a few years ago. Hopefully in his second year he takes another leap. And then Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, continue to be an underrated interior defensive line duo. Their linebackers will take a step back, but Zaire Franklin is still going to be the green dot. He's a good run defender. It's a nice little unit. If they reach their potential, I think it could be top 10. And then number 2 was, I didn't want to talk about the quarterback, so I just did, can a pass catcher outside of Michael Pittman Jr. Be a 1K level player? Their last 4 drafts, including this season with Tyler Warren, they have drafted a pass catcher in the top 3 rounds. Alec Pierce in 2022, Josh Downs in 2023, Adonai Mitchell in 24, and then Tyler Warren this year. Downs has 1,500 yards in 2 seasons, so he would be the guy to kind of continue the uptick of he'll, going from 750 to 800, he'll get to 1,000, right? He plays slot just as Michael Pittman. That's where Michael Pittman kind of thrives. It's as a big slot. So does that get in the way? Does any of this matter if the quarterbacks suck? I think it does enough because you got to have a semblance of a room if you're going to bring in the next guy, whoever that is. But yeah, they might not be able to have a guy step up because the quarterbacks are really bad. So take that into account. But yeah, that's the Colts.
My big question, I was talking to Ryan about this the other day here. Is this the best situation that Daniel Jones has ever played in? Period. It says wild, but I think it is. In terms of Michael Pittman, in terms of, they drafted Warren, a very good offensive line, a better top of the league-ish running back, watching my language because above average running back, a good defense.
And Taylor? Taylor's awesome.
Yeah, I think Taylor's awesome. I just didn't want to say top 5 because he's not top 5. But a very, very good running back, and a good defense. I think this might be the best team that Daniel Jones has ever played. If he is the starting quarterback.
I would disagree. I don't think that. I know that he had a
playoff team,
but as far as just in general, I think that, even though it was a very limited amount of time, his time with Malik Neighbors, this is because we talked, Ben and I talked about
that team was awful.
Okay.
Well, I'm talking when they made the playoffs in 22.
Playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know. It's comparable, at least. I don't know. But what I was going to say, what I think is funny when we're talking about this, quarterback, battle in camp. First off, it's hilarious we're even mentioning this because I have a really good feeling that we're going to see both quarterbacks during the season. Whoever's starting the season will not finish the season, or if they do, they will not play an entire season as starter, even if both of them end healthy, throughout the entire season. I'm seeing posts from James Boyd at camp, 9:36 in the morning, saying Colts corner Kenny Moore II just picked off Daniel Jones in 7-on-7. And then mere minutes after that, 9:48, Anthony Richardson was really picked off by Alex Johnson in 7-on-7. It's dear God, Colts fans, I'm sorry. I know a couple people. I've got some friends that are Colts fans. They're going through it right now. They don't feel confident about either guy. And you wouldn't.
Why should you? It's an outlook question. Yeah. Most teams, I talk about 2025. There is no answer I need for the 2025 Browns. They suck. And Myles Garrett is good. So the only question I have is the 26 starter quarterback on the roster? Is the guy that is going to start week 1 for 2026 on your current roster? I'm probably 70-30 no, but you need to figure it out. You need to figure out and give every opportunity to make it yes. They're going to start Flacco week 1. That's pretty much guaranteed. They're going to try and win games. The only way, like, what does that accomplish? Like, pride? That's it. Throwing Flacco out, I think. I think Flacco should be kind of like strung along. Can you play 6 games for us? And then we're going to see what we got in these 2 rookies that we wanted. And Jimmy Haslam, the owner today, or not today, but like recently, went out of his way to say like Andrew Barry picked Shador. It wasn't me. So he's like this $1 billion owner couldn't handle the pressure of like, because remember that day it was like, well, the owner made him pick him. Blah blah blah. But yeah, that's my big thing. And like if you lose 35-0 each and every week, guess what? You figured out your answer. You don't have the quarterback on your roster, and you need to get one.
You drafted 2 quarterbacks, given not particularly high for either one of them, but you did just draft 2 quarterbacks. One that had one of the craziest falls, in draft history. It's hard for me to say that guy's not going to be on the roster right now because I would guess it is one of Shador or Dylan Gabriel. But again, you never know how the season goes. I mean, so absolutely get it. I'm probably 70-30 he is on the roster, so I'm kind of the flip for you.
I think it's one of the 2 like
I think it's
day 2, day 3 guys. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, my main question is really the pass catchers. Can they find can Jerry Jeudy really turn into the wide receiver that we wanted when he got drafted, into the wide receiver that he showed he was, like the final 5-6 games of the season?
Yeah, he was really good down the stretch.
And Cedric Tillman, can you bring Cedric Tillman around, and can he turn into a suitable wide receiver 3? He doesn't have to be wide receiver 2, but someone suitable. And can you at least try to build up these pass catchers so when it is time for whoever that quarterback's going to be, whether they're on the roster now or next year, or it's Arch Manning or whatever, that you have that ready and you have the infrastructure around that quarterback when you end up drafting whoever it is. So that's my big question.
I think that listen, we talked about this with our Browns fans, and I don't think optimism's very high. You know what I mean? The floor very low, ceiling also very low. Like it's not fun, but there are still fun aspects to be looking at, right? Like, we talk about their draft and everything. Yes, they used 2 of their draft picks on quarterbacks and 1 on a running back that currently isn't signed because of allegations or, just straight up like bad things. And,
yeah,
right now, screw what you have to do in the season. It's a lost season. I am so excited to see Mason Graham and Myles Garrett on the same D line. That's like the highlight to me.
They targeted him. They knew, they went into that draft and said, we want Mason Graham. And you could tell because they freaking traded away that pick for a player that I think all 3 of us think is going to be generational. So you knew they wanted to pair him up with Mason Graham. And I wonder how much, or with Myles Garrett. I wonder how much Myles Garrett had an influence on that selection. But didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, the only other thing that I'm looking at this roster, I try to share the depth chart with everybody. While Matt goes through everything, I'll do it one more time here. And then we'll move on pretty quick.
Keep going.
I got you. So, Deontay Johnson's a Brown. That's kind of fun. It's stupid and he's not good anymore, but it's fun.
Yeah, is he going to be on like over under 1.5 teams for Deontay Johnson? You would have slammed the over last year when he was on 4 effing teams.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see how many reps Dylan Sampson gets in the offense, given the Judkins situation and how long that gets, drug out. Sampson was a fun one to watch in college, and then Harold Fannin, we talked about in the preseason as well. Behind Njoku, I think that's a fun one to kind of watch develop a little bit as well. But overall, I mean, this offense needs some work, and there's holes on the defense as well. But like, if Flacco is just still, I mean, don't get me wrong, Flacco's like bottom. Why do I keep doing that? I did that a bunch last week. If Flacco's still doing like bottom 10, I would say right now, like he was like that fringe, like that back half of the like top 20. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But anyways, if Flacco can do that, I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what happens with this team. But
I'm watching
like I said,
Ryan in real time talk himself into the 2025 Browns. This is insane.
no, like I'm just saying, like, listen, when I say I'm low on this team, I'm low on this team. But like when I'm just
couple
there's
bounces.
a couple bright spots on the roster. I mean, like we could dookie
My
on
season
them.
outlook question for this team: can the remade secondary continue on the trajectory it was on last season? Drop back EPA specifically. So this is just specific passing efficiency. From week 1 to week 10, they were .189, which was 30th. That is Panthers territory. That is how bad they were from week 1 to week 10 on, and it felt like it. From week 11 on, they made a switch to where Ardarius Washington came in at free safety instead of Marcus Williams, who they benched, and Kyle Hamilton kind of moved back to strong safety, kind of a rover thing. They then went on to be the best drop back EPA per play defense in the league. Negative .158, and it wasn't even close to number 2. Like, that's how good they were. They played in that stretch. You're probably saying, oh, they played bad teams. Pittsburgh twice, playoff team. Chargers, Eagles, 2 playoff teams, and then Giants, Texans, playoff team, and the Browns. That's who they played in that stretch, and they still were so dominant. We had that dominant Christmas game where C.J. Stroud couldn't cross the 50, it felt like. We were all snoozing by halftime. And then in the divisional round against Buffalo, they were negative .005. So if that was over the course of a whole season, it would be 7th. So they were continuing on this trajectory, but now they've remade the secondary in such a weird way. They're going to have a new boundary corner. They're going to have a new free safety in Starks, likely. So, again, can they continue on this trajectory? Can the talent overweigh what they were last year? Because if they were 15th in weeks 1 through 10, they could have been the 1 seed again. So, it's interesting.
That was exactly where, like, my broader outlook question was on them, too. That's why I was so excited and said yes when you asked it. And mine was obviously a bit more broad than what yours was. But it was, can Zach Orr and this defense build off of what that last 6 to 7 weeks of the season were for them? Because, again, as you said, they were the best defense when they were able to make that switch and allowed Kyle Hamilton to kind of roam around the field a little bit more. And if that secondary can improve and kind of build off of what they were last year, and then you drop in a Mike Green into that defensive line as well, and hopefully improve a little bit more of the production on that defensive line, then you're really cooking with fire. And then, I mean, maybe in a year's time, we're talking about Zach Orr even as a head coach somewhere.
My season outlook question, obviously, are any of these expensive defensive draft picks gonna break out in 25? Because, damn it, do they need it? Like, they need it really, really bad. This team was handed a layup in 2020 by the name of Joe Burrow, and he has made his dues. They also repaid him by getting T. Higgins in that same draft, and T has been a fantastic player. And then 21 followed up with another layup, and this just brought me back. Remember Jamar Chase versus Penny Sewell debates, guys. Oh, my goodness. Do you think either team is like, man, wish we had the other guy? Like, no, everyone's happy, and the Bengals would have been handed another layup. Whoever they took was going to be awesome. But 2022 on, we're going to go through it. It's a nightmare in the worst of ways. 2022, this is just the top 3 rounds. And just listen to the amount of defensive players they have taken. They've taken 10 in the last 3 years. Just total. Dax Hill was a safety in round 1. Cam Taylor-Britt was a corner in round 2. And Zach Carter, not on the team, don't know if he's in the league, was an edge rusher in round 3. I think he was Florida, that's testing the knowledge. Miles Murphy in 2023 was their first round pick. I really wanted him for the Saints. DJ Turner, a corner in round 2. And then Jordan Battle. Oh, hurts me. Jordan Battle in round 3, a safety. And then 2024, Amarius Mims in round 1, an offensive tackle. Chris Jenkins, interior defensive lineman in round 2. And then Jermaine Burton in round 3 and McKinley Jackson, another interior defensive lineman in round 3. If you added it up, that's 8 out of their 10 draft picks in the top 3 rounds the last 3 years have gone to the defense. None of those players have been good. Even none of them have been like, oh, we're definitely going to give that guy a second contract. And that's horrific. And that's a problem. And so you're sitting there like, one of these guys needs to be good. Like, you can throw in and lump in another group of Shamar Stewart and Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter. Someone's got to be good, man, because Trey Hendrickson's not going to be as good as he was the last 2 years. He's had 35 sacks in the last 2 seasons, and he's just not there. And he is there, but he's not practicing. So is there a gleam of hope where someone breaks out and someone is good and someone is looked forward to of man, we got to steal on the defensive end, because they have not gotten it in so many tries. They've tried so hard and they've just not done it.
No, and it shows. It shows. I mean, the fact that they went out and signed David Bryant and he's already getting second team reps and run is really shows how bad, especially along that defensive line, how bad it has gotten for them. Taven Bryant has been, a flat out a bust. He has not been good, and he's has a chance right now to step into this defense and get some serious run as DT3. And that is saying how bad they have drafted thus far on that defensive side of the football.
Yeah, that's my big season outlook question, is how does this defense perform with Shamar Stewart and everything? I mean, obviously you want to get to the, rush the passer a little bit more. For one, obviously, every draft pick has the potential to kind of bust. So you want to kind of question, following what Matt had just said, 8 draft picks in the last 10. That's insane. At this point, are they able to scout it? Because right now it doesn't look like it. And not only that, but is your top edge rusher going to be there? Probably is our take. More than likely, I would assume that you guys would agree. But right now, it's still up in the air. It's a reasonable question to ask. And with that defense takes a bigger hit than it needs to right now to be able to withstand the rest of the AFC North outside of the Browns. And so, with that being said, can they sneak their way into the playoffs?
Season outlook question. With the moves they made this offseason, is their ceiling actually higher? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because these are the 2 major things with the Steelers. The last time they won the division was 2020. They started 11-0, and they finished 12-4. They had that weird game to the Washington football team and Alex Smith, and they ended up getting housed by Cleveland. The COVID game, Kevin Stefanski couldn't coach it. He was in his basement. They got just obliterated. And from the first snap that went over Big Ben's head, they had no chance. That's the last time they won the division. So you're probably asking, when's the last time they won a playoff game? 2016. The Killer Bees were still the rave of football, the rave of offensive football. They made the conference title against Tom Brady's Patriots. And oh, by the way, the 28-3 comeback is more recent than the Steelers' last playoff win. I just realizing that kind of shattered my brain a little bit, but it's true. That's how long it's been. And they've had 5 opportunities to win a playoff game, by the way. And they've been down double digits in every single game. So when I ask, is their ceiling any higher, if from making these decisions, bringing in Metcalf, bringing in Ramsey, bringing in Rodgers, it feels like a Rodgers-esque swing. They're swinging because they believe the quarterback is that much better than the last guy, or guys in this case. Do we believe they could actually win a division or win a playoff game? I don't think so, but they're maneuvering as if they can. And so, but again, they have 12 picks next year. So I think I struggle with this team because I think there's a lot of just question marks that most teams I would be like, oh, you're kind of swinging for the wrong reasons. But then it's it's Pittsburgh. It's just what they do is what you kind of have to say every time. But I've talked too long about this team. You guys join me.
Yeah, I mean, it's what kind of the conversation that we had when all that Ramsey stuff happened. It's just scary. Again, they're going all in on this season. I mean, from like the front office standpoint, yeah, and they're making all these moves as if they were contenders. But I'm looking up and down this roster, and there's not really much confidence for me in their ability to do that. Like, let alone even be a playoff team. And hearing that stat too, by the way, is crazy. I mean, they haven't won a playoff game last time they did it was pre-COVID, which is like a wild thing to put in perspective. It's ridiculous. And again, I question a lot of decisions they make, especially considering they have no plan at quarterback outside of Rodgers as well for the future. But it's going to be an interesting team to watch for sure.
When I look at this roster, you know what the first thing I notice is? Here, hold on a minute. Let me pull this up. There we go. So
DK Metcalf is going to finish as a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. That's what I noticed.
What I noticed, you're close. This is the most Aaron Rodgers wide receiver room I've ever seen. Like outside of the New York Jets where he just constructed it himself. But like more so, my point being, like this is something where it's like, wow, that's a lot of nothing outside of DK Metcalf. And then it's like, but he's going to pull this out of them somehow. It's just Aaron Rodgers, right? And to me, like the run game is going to be fun to see what happens between these two. You know, you talked about Caleb Johnson, and I think that's a fun pick, honestly. And Kenneth Gainwell as a third string is also not a bad option. You hope that Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, as you do for any quarterback in the league, but specifically in the Steelers situation, because I feel like once he goes down, if he goes down, it's more like that's it. You know what I mean? It's the same conversation that we have about like the Dolphins, for example. Like if Tua's healthy, like they're good or they can be. But as far as Aaron goes, like it's a bit of a sketchy situation as well when you look at the rest of the quarterbacks in the room. Now, the tight ends that you talked about, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, that's a fun group to kind of have, for this team. But overall, I mean, the secondary is, obviously a little bit weaker in my opinion since getting rid of Minka. But it's still a little fun. Slay joining them, like you said, still having Joey Porter, Juan Thornhill, Jalen Ramsey. That's a fun room. And I think that, I might be a little bit higher on them than you guys may be, but I'm excited to figure out exactly where we're at.
Make sure to drop a like and subscription if you enjoyed what you just saw, and make sure every Wednesday, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, we are live. Any content you see here, it's going on over there on the live, so always interact with the chat. Would love to see you there. Stay tuned for next time. Enjoy.